Hey, so we're back. Okay, I'm trying to get it to where I can actually see the timer on it. I can do this, and you're still in frame. Wow, that's crazy. So this is the second part of some comic books I got at the early April because March was too much madness. We had a lot of people down here for spring breaks for colleges, and normally it doesn't bump into the spring breaks for Easter, but this year it did. And I was not about to go anywhere near Myrtle Beach, and I don't like going to Wilmington as much as I can. Now, the place I went to is called Player's Choice. They usually do a lot of video game selling. They also do comic books. When they used to be actually here in Charlotte, they were upstairs and did a lot of comic books. And then they moved to Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach. So I was like, why did you move so far away? He's like, because it's cheaper. And I was like, really? North Myrtle Beach is cheaper than this little Charlotte town nobody's ever heard of. These are $1 comics. They're in the dollar bin, which I love. You know, I love dollar comic books because there's so many great things to read in there. I'd rather read a dollar comic book than a modern comic book. And it's proven it. And maybe if you took off the labels and did the Pepsi test with me, I still think I'd pick these because the art, it's actually drawn by real people, and just the stories, and it cost more to produce these back then, so maybe that's why they had to have good comics instead of just crap. I don't know. It just seems like now they're printing out anything and everything they want to do. Plus, let's be honest, there is an agenda that they're pushing, and it's like, I don't want to be preached to now. Those issues have been going on forever, but now I feel like it's constantly being, there's only one side, there's not two sides to a story anymore. And I feel like I'm constantly being told I'm bad for not believing, if there's two halves in this people in the United States, why am I the bad half? Just because you have control does not mean you are better. That's called tyranny. Let's get to the comic books, because you didn't come here to hear me preaching about politics or whatever. Now, back in the 80s, I really wanted to get into some of these new universe, because they're new and everybody wants something new, right? But back in the 80s, I only get $5 a week allowance, so I had to keep doing what I was doing as far as X-Men, and I couldn't get into the Cyforce and all those comic books, but I have picked up a few Cyforces more recently, and I'm like, hey, these were actually pretty fun. They're not like amazing, but it kind of gives me a feeling of, when I've been reading them out of order, of reading something like New Mutants, but in a new universe. So we got Cyforce. Go ahead, follow every one of you. And all the comic books are falling in the box. Cyforce number 7. So you're probably sick of seeing that issue cover for 3 minutes. All right, we got number 11. So I'm pretty much going to try to get the whole run of these. I had the whole run of Star Brand because I found that to be interesting at one point, but I gave them all to one of my friends. So I like the colors they choose. Those really pop, the pinks and yellows and stuff. And I got this one twice, unfortunately. And it was like at the same time. Because at first I went to the back and then I came to the front and I got some more. And I should have been better off. I should have been more prepared. I don't know. It's like when you got this app, you're looking at what you don't have, but you can't check them off as you do. Because I'm like, what if I don't leave the store with them? Then I'd have a lot of screw ups. Anyway. This is when it started getting toward the end, unfortunately. But it ran for a good 30-some issues. All right, Power of the Atom. I thought I remember this, but in the Justice League International, oh man, that's good. So I read Sword of the Atom. I don't think I read Power of the Atom. That was much later. But with the Justice League International, you can't resist that, especially him taking on everybody's favorite punching bag, Guy Gardner. Anyway, and I know, politically speaking, he's probably the closest to my position, but not really. He's all the bad things people think about us. All right, Excalibur. Now, there's a whole bunch of issues. Maybe I should grab all those, since the comic books they all just fell down anyway. So I did get a bunch of Excaliburs, not you Guardians. They're all at the end for some reason. And since everything just fell forward, I might also go ahead and grab them now. All right, so Excalibur was a fun comic book back in the 90s. That's what I was reading, at least, maybe late 80s. In my hometown, there was a small place that sold older comics and pretty cheap. I think like back then it was in $1 bin because they were so much closer to $1 anyway. It's probably a quarter bin or 4 for $1 or something like that. But I don't remember having this one, but I did enjoy how they traveled through time, and it was a lot of fun, which always made me wonder, if they thought the X-Men were dead, why didn't they travel to before the X-Men left to go die? I don't know, maybe that was addressed at some point, but why did they prevent it, you know? I do remember reading this one and a few other, and it's like this, she was trying to find the Dark Phoenix, or the Phoenix. I can't remember why now. It's either something they do to crimes. This is also a great issue where this is her future basically coming back to haunt her. She was a hellhound in the future. I think that's what they call them. I've never read this one. I've never had it, so I didn't. There's a lot of these specials and whatever. There's a lot of those. It's kind of hard to keep up with all of them. This one looks really good. This is the Nth Man. I thought it was well, he's got purple and blue on, so you know it looks like Galactus sort of. Maybe it was Galactus and Doctor Strange mixed. I don't know who the Nth Man is, but he was a big deal for a while there. I remember. I never had this issue. I'm pretty sure that's, well, there's Magon, so I don't know who that is. Because Magon turns into a BC looking thing. Alright, then I just got one Firestorm because I thought this cover looks fantastic. And they had a lot of Firestorms, and I'll probably end up getting them eventually, but I can't remember if I remember liking the character, and I had a few of the comic books whenever he started turning into like Captain Power and his furry body and stuff. Because I was back then, I was on the Earth Day kick too, but it's become crazy now. So no, I recycle, I do all that stuff, but I'm like, I'm not going to spray people, you know, wearing furs. I think that's crazy. I'm not going to become a vegetarian. So it's kind of become convoluted. We need to care about the Earth. We don't need to be crazy. Speaking of the universe, here's another one, and because it's like Iron Man sort of, I think it might be interesting. I'm not quite sure anything about this one yet, so I want to get a few more issues in so I can start reading into it. Alpha Flight. All right. Yeah, I'm going to pull these comic books back to where they were because there's going to be a lot of Alpha Flights. I definitely read the first, I would say 40, 45 issues of Alpha Flight because I read it up through when Box became one of the characters and he became pretty important. I definitely remember this one. And I definitely remember this one because that's when I found out she's a psycho. She's got 2 different personalities, or actually multiple personalities, not just 2. But he happened to mess with the wrong one because she's normally kind of sweet, but then she snapped and became somebody you don't want to mess with. Let me just put it that way. And then we have Alpha Flight number 16. I definitely remember this one as well. And I think Namora was a big character during this arc, I guess you can say. Let me grab all the Alpha Flights at one time. You keep looking at that pretty cover. Yeah, there's some I definitely have not read. So it's not going, oh, I read this one. I read this one. I sound like my old cousin Chris when I was a kid. All right, yeah, this is another good issue. These covers like this, though, they're kind of strange to me. It's like, will she do this? Will they do this? Will they do this? Find out this week. It feels like a commercial. I like the more splash pages, even though this is not the most attractive. It's not a cover you want to put on your wall per se. You might like a lot of cushion, whatever. I just, and it's like, I'm not fat shaming her at all. I'm just saying this is not something I want to put on my cover, on my wall. And like these, I'm not saying, oh, well, that's prettier than this. I think this is more fascinating. They're fighting each other. They're 2 of what looks like the same creature. It's the Secrets of Sasquatch. It's Wendigo versus Sasquatch. But they look the same, so maybe it's just their names or something. He's creepy, but he was a big player in Age of Apocalypse, and I think this is Gamma Flight or Delta Flight or Omega Flight. I can't remember off the top of my head. I vaguely remember this one. And then, spoiler alert, Guardian came back. It wasn't Guardian, it was a cyborg. Yeah, and he eventually turns on. There's Box, so definitely, I don't know if I read this one, but I definitely read during this period still. And it was one of those things where once in a while I couldn't pick up the issue, so oh well, I just kept on going. And you know, back then we didn't have comic book shops during this period. There was comic book shops in the big cities. I didn't live in a big city, so you just picked up what you could and just hoped that you'd find the other ones somewhere else sometime. I remember reading this one though. And didn't Box turn from like red to blue or vice versa at one point? Maybe they decided there's too many of the same colors in the team or something. I don't know. I don't remember this one, but that doesn't mean I didn't read that time period. And we're starting to get, yeah, definitely by 80, I was not reading Alpha Flight anymore. I was in college. I was too busy. What year was this? It doesn't say. 1989. Yeah, I was too busy. And then we got Bloodlines Alpha Flight from 92. Nope, I was in college. I was way too busy. I was honestly skateboarding during my free time, if I had any free time. Wow, my voice cannot last more than 10 minutes. This is crazy. All right, well, hey, that's great because this is the last Alpha Flights. I'll go ahead and stop it here. Go get some water. I was trying to find the cough drops. Couldn't find those. But thanks for watching. Let me know which one's your favorite, which one I should definitely dig into.